Can let me know too.
Dr. Mark Vaughan for the Auburn Medical Group, and this
is Dr. LeeAnn Vaughan. And hopefully we're not just talking to a black void.
To our guest who's hiding off
Woo-hoo,
in the wings.
it's
over
going.
Here. All right. So all of our audience, thank you for being patient with the technical issues. We'll talk to somebody about that. This is our first time being with you in a couple weeks, and last time we had this same sort of glitch that made us have to make an alternate stream for the show from what we intended. But we've got our audience.
Good.
Now, who all is there? You know that?
Oh, a lot of our channel members.
Andrea
You definitely got to call them
Australia,
out. Yeah, and Teresia Rowatt.
Teresa.
Bianca. And they are all communicating with each other.
Having their own conversation. So
you guys get here on time. We're late to the party, so thanks for being.
We're interrupting your conversation. Many of you probably saw, if not all of you, the interesting thumbnail that went along with our show today.
Yeah.
That injury from the rubber bullet.
Right. And unfortunately, more common around at least the United States than we'd like it to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So we actually have a guest who was at and injured at one of the protests,
right.
Black Lives Matter protests in Sacramento. We'll get some more details on that. She is very kind to share her experience with us, and we'll talk a little bit about injuries that happen at these kind of events. So let us introduce and show the camera too. Jennifer
Loratt DeMola.
Jennifer Loratt DeMola. So
yes,
please introduce yourself and or to us and tell us a little bit about your experience. I guess you could look that up.
Hi. Jennifer Loratt DeMola. I was at the protests on Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Tuesday they were peaceful. Friday it got a little bit crazy. People got on the freeway and things like that and jumped over the wall. A couple people fell over the wall.
Where was it?
On Tuesday it was at Florin and 65th. Friday it was the police station in Oak Park, and then it went out to the freeway entrances.
On the 5, I guess that would be?
99.
99. Okay.
And,
so that's downtown Sacramento.
It's like South Sac.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then a Saturday was downtown, kind of centralized around Cesar Chavez Park and J Street. J Street was more when it got crazy and turned into riots, but the protest was at the Capitol early, and then at Cesar Chavez. Sunday, it started at Cesar Chavez, and then people moved to the Capitol largely, and then people were trying to stay moving throughout downtown because what we didn't want was there were some radical people that weren't part of Black Lives Matter, that weren't even black, that were antagonizing the police from behind the crowd and then ditching. Like throwing fireworks from behind to get everything started when everybody was protesting peacefully and then ditching. So we were trying to, once we discovered that, once that got around, we were trying to neutralize that by moving and not creating, big places for them to hide. But, so that's where it happened. The J Street was where we got blockaded, and some looting had started, but it was about 6 blocks up. We were in the middle of the street. I did not give an order to get out of the street until they started taking bikes and going, move, and then pushing, but they never said what we were in violation of. And then they started shooting tear gas, pepper bullets. I got hit by a pepper bullet in the chest. I was speaking.
Can you describe what a pepper bullet is?
It's a bullet made of pepper spray dust, capsaicin. I suppose. And so I was like, I'm hit, No, I really I didn't know that it was. I was okay for a minute. It definitely knocked the wind out of you.
Wow.
I got here right there.
You still have pain, yeah.
And definitely a lot in the legs. I have bruises all up and down my legs.
Now, were they just firing these into the crowd? I'm just curious what the story was.
Just
because you were in the middle,
crowd.
and
I had my hands up. There was no attempt to arrest anybody peacefully. Nobody in front of these police officers was doing anything with any weapons or anything. People were screaming, but they have riot gear and batons, and they're facing voices, and apparently in America today, that's a reason to start assaulting people. So.
So.
Yeah.
Let me do this. Since we also have John Ruffner, who was there with you, what we'll do is have him tell his experience also, because he was also in the middle of this. He was right there with you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So could I have you trade your mic with John and send him in, and then we'll get his experience also.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
While they're switching places, can you let us in on
Sure.
comments or questions that have been coming from our viewers about?
Yeah, some people just
Which we'll probably
commiserating,
have to have
saying
Jennifer come back.
ouch, saying that would definitely hurt.
Yeah, really.
And a lot of people just saying hi and kind of showing their support.
Okay.
Some of them were commenting on the earlier picture, saying that would really hurt. I think we need to turn up her mic, though. Some people were saying that her sound was.
Well, except it's John that's going to be.
Oh, is he a little more boisterous than she is? She was kind of soft.
When we have Jennifer back, we'll turn up Jennifer. But
we will do that.
Let me take note of the settings. So they were talking about the picture. Why don't I put the picture on right now?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
we can remind ourselves what that did look like. And for those who aren't able to remember what it looked like, we'll put that through.
Yeah, and this wasn't a pepper bullet, I believe, from the description you sent me.
Yeah, John described it as a
rubber bullet. Yeah.
Rubber bullet. So let's see if we can get that onto the screen. There it is. So that's his back just to the left of midline in his lower thoracic spine. You can kind of see somebody's pulling up his shirt, and then his pants with his belt down at the bottom of the picture. And he'll be able to tell us more fully what exactly that is that we're looking at when he comes in, as far as an open wound versus a big old
it's hard to tell.
Ecchymosis there. Yeah. So while we're waiting for John, we'll also go over some recommendations from, was it NYC Health?
On how to prepare, I guess, for a protest, hopefully a peaceful protest.
Yeah.
That's what we would definitely recommend. We do not condone violence in any way.
No. So let's go ahead and put that on.
Yeah.
So
this is from NYC
if you plan
Health.
to protest, some tips to reduce your risk. Also the risk of spreading COVID-19
because we're
still
in
the middle of a pandemic,
and especially in New York City.
So they mentioned wearing the face covering, which we are here, and many people were in Auburn last night when we saw people that were at the protest. Wearing eye protection, because if you got hit in the eye with a rubber bullet,
right,
it can blind you, and that happened to a photojournalist once.
And not only that,
At least once.
sometimes they are using what's it called, the gas. Which the
CS or CN, the tear gas.
Yeah, tear gas.
Stay hydrated. Use hand sanitizer. Don't yell. That's how we spread whatever we're breathing out. And as we know, a lot of people are carrying COVID-19 that don't have any symptoms at all.
Right.
Through the whole duration of it. Sticking to a small group instead of being one big group, having various small groups spread out, trying to stay 6 feet from the other groups would be kind of ideal, so that we're in the maximum safe situation as, if you're to participate in one of these things. Speaking of which, I'll show the video from, well, it's actually just still pictures, but I made a video of still pictures. together, have your signs. If you're going to make noise, do it with some kind of a noise maker, bell or whatever, rather than your voice, because even with the mask, you're still putting out a lot more respiratory particles and droplets if you're doing that, rather than using some kind of other noise maker. And you can use your sign, and people can read your sign, and you can have conversations with people, preferably still distance.
Right. Yeah. Right. We I think are all in agreement that a travesty has happened, and change needs to happen.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're all in agreement. But we want to make that change happen in a constructive way, not a destructive way.
Absolutely.
So
it's been very heartwarming to see, particularly some of the posts that John, our next guest, has put on Twitter and Facebook of the police either participating.
I've seen
or,
some of those, and that is
showing that they are in solidarity with the protesters.
Right. Yeah.
That they also are wanting to promote good police practices. And,
right.
And
Yep.
And end to racism.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
So some comments.
What are our comments? Your comments and questions.
So again, people commenting now on some of those riots, just saying it's unnecessary just to let the peaceful protesters have their own thing, and it's unnecessary that they're being shot. Agreed. And yeah, a peaceful protester should never be shot. That really doesn't make sense. And then everyone has the right to protest. Agree completely. And
peaceful assembly.
Yeah. Andrea of Adelaide, Australia. We got to say that. Do the whole thing every time.
Yeah. Can we
Andrea,
come up with a nickname for you?
AAA.
Maybe just call her Andrea. AAA.
Andrea of Adelaide, Australia. See, AAA.
Aortic aneurysm.
She said, "I hate that others are hijacking the peace protest." Yes,
I think
we
John
do.
will have a lot to say about
We
that.
do too.
Maybe he'll let us see his injury too.
Yeah. Actually, that would be.
Let me put up
pretty...
that picture again as we go to get John.
And went and sang the whole chorus to Staying
Nice.
Alive.
Did the whole 20 seconds.
Because I'm not going to be the guy.
Nice.
Oh, John, you lost your voice. You must have been yelling.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and sit back a little bit. The way the camera's framed, it was more for Jennifer.
Oh, okay.
You're a little taller, and it's focused back there. John, we have you on the camera, so go ahead and have a conversation with us. How do you want us to introduce you? I guess we'll let you introduce yourself. Do you want to say your first and last name? I think we already put it out there.
I mean,
I think we actually put it in print.
One of the things, anyways, I'm launching on my whole agenda. My name is John Ruffner. I'm a mediocre local artist.
You sell yourself short. I like your stuff. I travel all the way to Roseville when I hear that you're playing. You've seen that.
I run one of the most unreliable handyman businesses in the greater Sacramento area.
You're really building yourself up here.
I grew up here. I made most of my mistakes here. And this is the place where I can never get away with changing my mind without being held accountable.
Yeah. Especially on your Facebook.
Yeah.
So seriously though, you had quite an experience, painful experience Saturday night, excuse me. Tell us what happened.
Well, I feel like you're speaking specifically to the injury that I posted.
Yeah, we'd like to talk about the injury as it being a medical show, but also give you a chance to talk about what's on your heart that is surrounding that experience too.
Okay, so with regard to that injury, that is the most visible injury, but my body is covered in bruises. We were all shot multiple times. So I guess the first thing I'd like to say is the officers are trained to shoot those rubber bullets at the ground, and they're supposed to ricochet up into our legs. As far as the other, they have a number of non-lethal rounds. I'm not an expert in what all those things are, but I know I've been hit with multiple different kinds of rounds, and I know I took one of the rubber bullets off the top of my head, and it's by grace that it didn't open me up. But my friend Lisa did have the back of her head opened up.
We saw the pictures of that.
So I can tell you from firsthand experience that the officers are intentionally breaking their training to hurt us. Lisa, when she was hit in the back of the head, she was shot multiple times with her hands up and with her back to the officers as a human shield between the officers and the people of color. And you see a switch. We are white and we have privilege, and then there's a switch that goes off in their heads, and then they want to punish us. So I just wanted to bring up Lisa. I saw 3 people with their faces opened up by these bullets by close range shots that were not what the officers were trained to do. So it's hard for me to really talk too much about my injury, which is basically road rash.
Okay.
I have a bad bruise. I have a number of bruises, but you don't see them very much because they hit me in muscly areas. So you see the color discoloration, you see some inflammation, but the main thing on that injury is it's a road rash injury, but it only moved maybe 1/8 of an inch. So what you saw in that picture was the blood coming out from a scrape.
Oh.
But I had to amend my post to clarify that I have not been shot like by a bullet. What I have is a very bad bruise. And the concern we need to have is these officers are going to put someone's eye out. It's going to happen.
That would be a possibility for sure.
Oh, it has happened in other
It happened in San
jurisdictions.
Diego, I believe. Some young lady it happened.
So,
Yeah.
so even though
There's one more detail I want to say about my particular injury, and then I'll quit with my lecturing. But with regard to my injury, I realized early on that what I had to offer was quick thinking and an eye for how to solve problems. So I wasn't on those front lines that night because I had too much of an agenda on the front line. I was there to make it safe. And what I observed, a guy had been holding his hands up. We're very tired. A guy had been holding his hands up, an Asian kid, and he was trying to continue to engage the police in a nonviolent way. I will come in a minute. I know you Republicans out there want to hear both sides. I am going to tell you what you want to hear. The police are being attacked, and we'll come back to that. But what happened at that time was this guy was backing up, doing the best he could, and he tripped. And the police surrounded him and began dumping their non-lethal rounds into him sadistically. And none of the other officers were stopping them. Now, I'm on parole with 2 strikes. And I don't want to spend the rest of my life in prison. But I couldn't not help. So I rushed into that fire with my hands up. And they lit me up. They knew I was unarmed. They lit me up to express their feelings. Because I had never been shot by rubber bullets when I wasn't in prison, I was, but off a ricochet, and I was already down. So when the one bounced off my head and one bounced off my side, my courage flagged, and I hit the ground. The best thing I could do at that point was to throw my body over the guy on the ground. Because I was scared to face the rounds. I'm not scared now, because now I know what the damage is. But at the time, psychologically, it was very effective.
Okay.
And I threw my body over him. And an officer, in order to make that injury had to have taken aim at my back and shot me because I was on the ground already, covering somebody else. And then other protesters who understood what was happening took the shots necessary to drag both of us out of there.
And you guys were not causing damage to property. You were not spray painting. You were not attacking police at all.
Absolutely not. But with regard to the attacking of police, that is real. But what Jennifer and I and our friend Lisa and allies who've been close to it have been doing is we've been interfacing with these officers because they see a black woman emotional, waving her hands around, and they are conditioned by their culture to say that they felt afraid. They're conditioned by their culture to give complimentary reports so that they can commit disability fraud by claiming they've been injured by people who scared them. That's a fact. If there's a cop out there listening, you know it's a fact. You've been complicit in it. And it's leading to over-sentencing, and it's ruining people's lives. But what we're doing out there, while these black women and black men are expressing their pain and finally feeling empowered to not put their head down and not smile and say their truth, the white allies are on the front. And what I'm saying to these cops is, hey man, that's a girl and she was using words. She might even spit on you. And if you're not brave enough to get spit on, turn in your badge. Because I came out here with no weapons, willing to lose everything to keep people safe. What did you come out here to do? And honestly, it's having an effect on the hearts of these police. I'm not trying to take credit for that. I'm saying that's a movement of what's happening on the front line, and it's having the effect that is desired. These cops are calming down. Many of them are de-escalating. They're taking their hands off of their weapons. And I'm in their face. I'm like, you clowns played sports in high school. Are you so slow that extra half an inch from unarmed protesters is worth the psychological impact of standing before grieving people with your hands on your weapon? Take your hands off the weapon and show these people you care. And many of them are starting to break ranks and do that. Many of them last night listened and took a knee. And I want to challenge everybody right now. Black Lives Matter belongs to black people. And I am in no way trying to co-opt or have any influence on Black Lives Matter. I'm trying to make reparations for all the racist things I've said in my life, for the subtle ways when I've taken advantage of my privilege, for the ways I've acted, for the ways that I've projected my own negativity, my own sexual negativity, my own criminal negativity onto black men so that I could blend with white men. For all of that, I owe reparations. And so I'm challenging white people. White people saying Black Lives Matter is not enough. Everybody knows Black Lives Matter. The question is, are black lives worth it? White people need to be saying black lives are worth it. Black Lives Matter is strong enough for them. That was their point. We owe them more. Black lives are worth it. For me to say that I've got more to lose because I have a business and my customers might disagree with me politically, that's some real racist, un-American stuff for me to say. I don't want to be out there. I don't want to be doing this. It's COVID. I don't. But I just do not feel, after spending my life having conversations with white people who do not consider ourselves racist, saying, well, if black people ever stood up, now black people are standing up and you're saying they're standing up wrong. Come out there with us. You leave a bunch of kids unsupervised and then you use it to make excuses for your complete inaction. Come help us. You can do anything. My friend Jennifer was running evac last night, just circling and part of a large group so that if anyone needed a medical evac, we had it. There are things you can do.
Okay. Well, John, that
Thank
was
you
a
for
very, very impassioned
I do want
bit
to.
of information
The reason I
there.
have this is some of our viewers are actually commenting as we speak here, and a lot of them are commenting on what you were saying. So I was checking that out, and they are saying you're a great human. They want to say that John, hugs for you from down under. This is actually someone from Australia, and people agreeing with that, and just kind of throwing love your way. So I do want to. I'll pass that on to you. Make sure you're aware of that there are viewers out there
Yeah.
who agree with you and that want to lift you up. But more importantly, we want to stand by our black brothers and sisters during this difficult time. So thank you for coming in and telling your story.
Yeah.
We are a medical show, so we're
I'm
gonna
sorry.
no.
My platform too much.
Appreciate it. So we are going to bring it back to the medical part of that, and talk a little bit about your injuries. People are commenting, saying, no matter what you did, getting shot in the back is not right. There's really no reason for that. So that's
You're not a threat.
Yeah. If your back is to someone, how are you threatening them? Well,
I want to answer that. I know this is a medical show,
yeah.
but there's something that needs to be told. That night when we all got shot the most, we were up front peacefully protesting, aggressively, confrontationally, but unarmed with our hands up. Other people were using us as a human shield to hide behind, and they were throwing fireworks and projectiles at the cops. And then the cops were opening fire on us.
Yeah.
Who are these people?
I want to come back to that because it's very important that that be acknowledged, because there's people out there who want to support Black Lives Matter, but they don't believe that the cops are all bad and we're all innocent. And we need to acknowledge that this is happening. So what we did last night differently to reduce that, because medically speaking, there's a ritual that's happening. They're throwing slow-acting pepper spray at us so that the radicals will throw the pepper spray back at them so they can justify their excessive force. That's the game. It's a ritual. And what we did last night to shift the paradigm was whenever allies were bunching up, we went around and said, hey, don't be used as a human shield. We spread it out a little bit because the people who are attacking the police generally are not part of the protest. They're circling the protest. And then I personally, with Jennifer's help, although I asked her to please take a different role, when Black Lives Matter was making progress with the police, I took a position 100 feet out and stopped anybody who was coming up to do that. And I said, look, these cops are about to take a knee, which to their credit, many of them did. And I stood and faced down the little wannabe radicalized Antifa people. And one of them got past me with a little bat, and he put his little bat into his backpack and went up to the back of the crowd. That person who brought a weapon to the front of the crowd put everyone's life in danger. Before he could get to the crowd, one of the Black Lives Matter organizers who saw what was happening came by, took it away from him, took it out of the scene, and we kicked him out of the protest. So if you guys are sitting at home saying you agree, but you don't like how it's being done because it doesn't fit what you think you know about the 60s, come out there and do it right. Because we're out there. I last night stood out open where I could have been shot to protect those cops so that I could protect the people of color, because the people who are doing that vandalism are using people of color as pawns. They are co-opting the Black Lives Matter mission.
Are they organized?
I don't think they're centrally organized. I think that as much as I do not like to give credit to right-wing conspiracy theories, I think that it's very reasonable to assume that Russian intelligence is doing something, because historically, American and Russian intelligence do stuff like this to overthrow countries. We did it in Syria. That's not classified. We do things like this. So Russia does things like this. I think that it's fair to assume that we've been infiltrated by foreign actors. I think that is probably true. There are also opportunists. There are also independent lone wolves who are self-radicalized.
That's what I was going to say. Certainly there's adequate explanation also for people here at home.
The problem is I chased one guy down who threw something. When the cops were taking a knee, he threw something into it to disrupt that. And I chased him, and I chased him into a pack of guys who were dressed like him. They were Mexican. They appeared to be gang members. Not because they were Mexican, but because they were all dressed in red at a place where the rest of us were dressed in black. And when I challenged them, they all backed down from me, and they were not afraid. So it gave me the impression that they were organized. But again, if you have a problem with these outside agitators, get out there and do something productive. Do not let that be your excuse for standing by, because black lives are worth it.
Okay. And I do feel the need to clarify when you said looked like they're Mexican, looked like they're of Latinx.
Whatever the deal is, I grew up in West Roseville.
That's not
They
all
look
of
like
the
my
people.
homies.
That's just
No.
these particular-
These
Okay.
people were self-identifying
Okay.
as a group.
Okay.
The vast majority of us out there, there's incredible diversity out there. You know, Latinx people. I had a Hispanic last name for the first 12 years of my life. We are not exempt from police brutality.
Okay.
But I'm not saying that as an attack on Mexican allies or Hispanic allies.
Okay.
I'm saying that we cannot gaslight people into thinking it's all one way.
Well, I think we usually have a half an hour show, so
Yeah, we're going over today.
Yeah, we're going a little over, but we do want to show people your injury if that's all right with you. Can we just see what that looks like in at the aftermath?
Here, let's see. Sir, what can you get it?
Yeah.
I'll just switch to that camera.
Let's see here. We can get up close.
And that's it healing.
You can see the bruising on that.
Yeah, it looks like an
Yeah,
abrasion
it does look like a pretty bad abrasion.
with an ecchymosis around it.
Yeah, it's kind of starting.
Thanks,
to
John. I
heal
appreciate
in.
you sharing that.
It's a shame is that the kid who got shot in the face, it appears to have chipped his orbital bone
Oh my
and
goodness.
opened this whole way up permanently. It's a shame that his injury is not being shown.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that was a long show.
Yeah.
Any final comments that we want to make sure we cover before we?
Yeah. Sounds like you're helping out. Yeah,
So,
hopefully doing a good thing there.
John, we appreciate what you did
thanks
and
for
for
coming on.
sharing it with our audience. We want to encourage peaceful assembly,
Yes.
and we will participate in that ourselves. And you're
Yep.
welcome to join us too, coming up in about an hour at the courthouse.
Yep.
And,
Here in our town.
This is actually a health issue because with the disparity in health, which you talked about in Dr. Green Night today.
Right.
you
Yeah.
wanna make a
So
comment?
today I did write an article on my blog about the injustice within the medical field and the fact that blacks just don't get they get substandard care compared to whites and everybody else. So make sure you go check out that article, drgreennight.com. It's a good one. Yeah, definitely some information that you probably don't know about that definitely needs to come to light. So.
All right. Thank you, John. Thank you to Jennifer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So before we go, we do want to thank our patrons over at drgreennight.com. Thanks to Teresia Rowatt and BooBoo Kitty. You make it happen.
Yep. Thank you, BooBoo Kitty and Lindsay Antwine. And until next time,
I'm Dr. LeeAnn Vaughan.
Dr. Mark Vaughan telling you to stay in good health.